belong to you. Oh, I'm alive.
Hi, my name's Mark Stallard. Welcome to I'm Alive Animations. I'm going to show you something that's I've been struggling with for a long time. I was trying to make a believable seascape, and it turns out that all along there was a script built into Moho 12 that allows you to do this with relative ease and really quickly. So here's an example. This is what I'm going to be showing you how to do. You'll see on this particular video there where the waves are bigger at the front and then they get smaller as they go to the back. So we're going to look at this and how to do that. So we're going to go switch to Moho, and I'll show you how to start that from scratch. Okay, so this is the project that I used to create that animation, same images. I just have removed some of the animation there so I can start again with you. Let me talk you through what we've got here for way of elements. Right here we've got the night sky, which I'm going to take off, and all this is just an image of the moon, and just a gradients, an image I've got there. You could quite easily use a vector and a shape in there if you want. So I'll take that off just because that is not what I'm not showing you how to do that today. What we do have though is I've got a moon and a moon grid. We'll talk about that at the end very quickly. I won't be spending much time on that. And I've got a picture of a moon which is actually behind the image of the sea, which is this one here. And as you'll see, if I take off what I've called it reflection light, you'll see that this is actually what I did was I took the highlights that were from the sun or the moon, which I think was the moon in the original image. I just used a selection tool in Paint.net and removed that, so we got the holes in there. This will work if you leave the original reflection in as well. I just wanted to have the moon just a little bit more controlled. So I'm going to take the moon out of that, and I'm going to put the reflection light back on. So this is exactly how it would look if you had a flat image, so this doesn't really change anything on that regard. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to set this up now to animate it. We're going to use something called Smart Mesh that will help us to manipulate this this image. So first thing we're going to do is create a vector layer, and I've got two vector layers there. I'm going to delete one of those. I already have one created. There's nothing in this vector layer. You can see it's empty. And I'm going to rename that, and I'm going to call that C grid. Call it what you like. This is what I would like to call it. And what I'm going to do then is create a grid on this. So I'm going to go over here to the shape selection tool, over that, the shape tool, to create a shape. And I'm going to go over here to this wonderful little tool here called grid. So if you click on that, this will pop up. You'll have horizontal and vertical numbers in the grid. So I want horizontally 15 points and vertically 20. That's what I've been using. So I'm just now going to draw that grid in, and I'm going to draw it over the image. Don't worry about the background. I'm just going to draw that over the image, and you can see the points coming out. And I'm going to go way over the image like that. And what you'll notice too is that if I were now to animate this, the waves at the back are going to be massive, and the waves at the front will appear very small, and it'll be very lopsided. So I'm going to change that. So what we're going to do to change that is to put some perspective on these. So with the points already highlighted, I'm going to go to the perspective points tool there, and I'm just going to click and drag up, and you'll see the perspective on that. And much of this is just going to be what feels good to you. That looks about right to me. That's kind of the angle that the sea would be. And now I just then take the points and just make them bigger so that they cover the whole image. Now it's what's important here that I found is if I have one set of points outside the image on the horizon, because if you don't, that's where the mask is going to cut that image off. So if I were to have the last points to be where my cursor is now on that second row, it would actually cut off the top of the image. So I do that, and I'm also going to be keeping those top two lines, and I'm not going to be animating those at all. And you want all the points to go over the image all the way. So I'm just going to completely go over that image. If you don't do that, once you've put the wave in there, these are going to pop into the camera, and you're going to get these angles appearing in the screen. And maybe I'll show you that later once we get there. So now we've got the grid created, and how quick and easy that was. We can now turn it into a smart grid here. So we're going to go draw, triangulate to the mesh, and that will put in these triangles, and it's really that quick. You'll want to just double check double click on the on your grid there. Don't render this layer, needs to be selected, otherwise you get these really interesting bright colors over everything. So if I were now to preview that, you'll see that it doesn't show up, but if I do render it and then we'll just preview, you'll see it comes up and it looks rather horrible. So it's important that you make sure that the don't render is on, and you can also hide the layer here as well if you want to. In this split, like I say, will, because I think it just detracts from the image. Now, this is the other important part, is we need to now attach this grid to the image, so that the image, when you move the grid, then that will then change. That as you move the points, it's going to actually drag bits of that image around to animate. So we're going to go to the Image tab on the Image Layer Property Settings, go down to Smart Warp Layer and correct C-Grid, the one we just created. Hit OK. Now if we go back here, when we animate these, it's going to animate the rest of the image under it. So we're all good to go. This is where it becomes, you just got to pay attention to what you're doing. Because if you animate the same point twice in two different ways, it might just not give you the effect you want. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to highlight the back of the seascape, probably about a third or a quarter there. I'm going to highlight all of those points, leaving those top two rows not animated. I don't want my horizon to move up and down. I want my horizon to be still. So then you go up to Scripts, Warp, Wavy, and then you'll get the properties. All you need to do on this is change the amplitude. On the back, I'm going to change that to 0.1, and okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub the timeline here, and you can see it moving. See that moving? Isn't that cool? Now you'll also notice that we're on 72 frames. I've got 264 in this. The reason I want to do that is because if I were to animate this like this, it's going to go really way too quick. If I just actually play that, you can see it. That's really way too fast. So we're going to spread those out over the timeline, but I want to do the other. I want to do the midground and the foreground before I do that. So I'm going to then highlight the next set of points, making sure I don't highlight the points I just did. And I'm going to do the midground here. Highlight those. Scripts, Warp, Wavy, and I'm going to change this to 0.3. Make the waves, not 0.3, 0.3. Make those waves a little bit bigger. And again, if I scrub that, you can see those are bigger than the ones behind it. And then being careful, make sure that's on frame 0. And then going to select the next lot of points, or the rest of them. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. Scripts, Warp, Wavy. But this time I'm going to make those waves bigger. 2.5, not 0.5. I don't know why I keep doing that. Let me hit OK. And now you can see we've got big waves at the back, medium waves in the middle, and small waves at the other way around. Big waves at the front, medium waves in the middle, and small waves at the back. Now, because I don't want it to be animating that quickly, I'm going to now stretch these points evenly right across to 0.11. So highlight them, all of them. I don't have enough memory on this for you to see this, but there is going to be a little bit of a delay. But if you hold down Alt, click on the last point, and drag it over. Now I've got to do this on faith because of my memory issues, and then let go. There we go, and we can see it's ticking away there. It's having to think. It's doing a lot of calculating. Now that's it. Now we've animated the sea. We've animated the ocean. Now if I do this, you can see we get that effect. So now I'm going to just show you the moon. So I've got the moon in the background. I'll put the night sky on as well. And you can see that. All the animation is done. We're all done. We're just going to be putting in the background, which is the moon, and the dark sky, which is easy, just sitting behind the sea. The moon is in there as a reflection. And I did exactly the same thing with the moon grid to attach just to the moon. So if I hide that out of the way, you can see just how I did that. And that just makes the moon go at a different pace altogether, and I just I didn't put the full grid on. I just did the put the points in, generated the grid the same way. That's it. That's all there is to it. So then, if I were then to play it as is, you'll see it looks just like the image we saw. Now, if you're not careful, you will find that if the points are too close to the screen, that you will get a case where this happens. Oh, where are we? There we are. And you'll see little points come through. So just be aware of that. I've done that a few times. Even for the when I was preparing for this animation for this tutorial. That happened to me. I had to re-render it again because I had that little bit in there. Easy to do, but you'll see how quick and easy this is. So that's it. It really is pretty easy, straightforward. Once you've done it once, you can do this again and again and again, and it gives that seascape that really quite. I was quite surprised at how well this worked and how easy it was to actually do it. So hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked it, like, subscribe, share, and all that other good stuff. Leave comments and suggestions for other tutorials in the description. I'll be happy to review them all, and if I can find easy ways of doing things, I will let you know. But that's it for now. I'll catch you in the next tutorial. Thanks a lot.